covered 2,000 miles in the Audi e-Tron since it arrived, so it's probably time to take a closer look at what I like about it. So in this video, let's take a look at the top 5 things that I love about the 2021 Audi e-Tron Black Edition. Number 1. The comfort, refinement and build quality. There's definitely a constant theme in my videos about this car. I keep banging on about how comfortable and well refined it is. It just soaks up the miles absolutely effortlessly, and you arrive at your destination significantly less tired than you would be in other cars. Now, I'd expect nothing less at this price point, don't get me wrong, but it really is an amazing place to be. It seems remarkably well screwed together as well. There's no rattles, there's no creaks. I was sitting in it taking a call for work the other day whilst an estate agent was showing someone around the house. And I swear to you, both more comfortable and better insulated from noise than my lounge. No word of a lie. I'm not particularly well versed in modern Audi. I don't know how far up the range you'd need to go in their petrol or diesel variants to find this level of refinement. However, it's noticeably better than the Diesel 3 Series that I was driving a couple of years ago, which is probably the most prestige or premium car I'm actually able to compare it to at the moment. If you want comfortable, quiet and well screwed together, I think you're definitely looking in the right place. Having said that, I did see a video of one on Facebook the other day with some really bad water ingress into the cabin. So I think there'll be some Friday afternoon cars coming off the Audi production line too, of course. My impression so far is definitely that it's a well built, well refined, nice place to be. And although it does cost a lot of money, you seem to get a lot of refinement for your money. And that's definitely the number 1 plus point for me. Number 2 has to be the Black Edition styling on this particular car that I'm driving. It is the Black Edition, so for those of you wondering what that actually means, it's basically the S-Line trim, but instead of having silver or chrome trim everywhere, they've blacked it all out. That's it, it's nothing particularly fancy, just some blacked out trim, a bit like a 17-year-old painting bits of their Corsa to make it a bit more individual. Not that everybody ends up doing that, of course. But why has this made it onto the list of things I like, I hear you say? I'm not normally a fan of this kind of thing. I think some cars need a bit of silver or chrome trim to brighten them up a bit, and I think you can get lost in a sea of black, especially on a car with darker paint. But in this particular car that I've got here, finished in Catalunya red, I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and I think it's a massive improvement on the same car with the silver grille and the silver styling. I'm not sure I'd feel the same way if it was a black car. I think it's such a big car that you need something to break it up, and that colour contrast between the black and the silver would help you. And the Black Edition with black paint must be a little bit too much, I think. But it works really well with the red, to the point I don't think I'd actually consider any other option if I was going to buy one of these with my own money. I think it's a very striking looking thing, and I'm a big fan of the styling. So I think if I was going to buy one with my own money, it would definitely be in the Catalunya red, and it would be the Black Edition. I think it looks brilliant. Number 3 then has to be charging speed. Now I know we've done this one to death. There's an entire video on the subject if you want to know more about the e-Tron 55 and how it performs on rapid chargers or ultra rapid chargers. But the charging performance of this car is absolutely phenomenal. There's never any question over whether it'll charge fast. Every time I plug it in, I know it's going to charge as fast as it possibly can. You plug it into a 50 kilowatt charger in pretty much any state of charge, and it'll pull the full 50 kilowatts that's available. Plug it into a faster unit at anything less than 80% charge, and it'll pull up to its full 150 kilowatts, which is the maximum charging speed. Absolutely hassle free. There's none of this. Will it? Won't it? Is the outside temperature right? Is the battery warm enough? Did I have too much for breakfast this morning? Or is the wind blowing in the wrong direction that you get with other cars? It just works, and works quickly every single time you plug it in. I'm not sure quite what Audi have done differently here compared with other cars. Even those from the Volkswagen stable. I hear of ID3 owners having a bit of a charging speed lottery, much like I used to with the ZS EV. But the experience here is absolutely amazing, and it completely changes the game because you have true consistency every single time you come to charge it. Now, maybe I've just been lucky, but bearing in mind I've been running this car only charging on rapid chargers 99% of the time. I think I plugged it in at home twice to give it a quick boost for specific reasons, but the rest of the time It's been charged on rapid chargers, and that has been for the absolute majority of my use. And I might have been lucky that they all were just in perfect working order and, just happened to be really fast. But I think the car has a really big role to play here. And I think that some car manufacturers need to stop just blindly pointing the finger at the charging manufacturer. Because if this e-Tron I've got here can have perfect rapid charging performance, they must have done something that other manufacturers haven't done or that other models don't have. And I think it's very interesting, and I think it really is a game changer. Number 4 then, infotainment. As you know, I'm a little bit fussy about the infotainment system in a car, and the one thing I cannot stand is having a laggy, buggy system that's slow to respond to your input. There's absolutely none of that here. It seems to be lightning fast, rock solid, and does exactly what it promises. And all in all, it's quite a pleasure to use, to be honest. The sat-nav is actually decent. It's already updated its maps in the short time I've had it, which was quite a surprise. And the live traffic seems very effective. It's not 100% perfect. It does occasionally not know about an impending traffic jam. And I found that on my trip to Scotland, that there was one particular bit of traffic they didn't know about. But on the whole, it's very, very good, and it's very, very accurate. I really like the digital cockpit as well, the speedometer display that's customizable depending on what you want it to show you. Everything from the geeky consumption stats, which I think I can get a little bit obsessed over, seeing just how bad the economy is, which is all that everybody talks about when they talk about the e-Tron. Details about the music you're playing, or letting the sat-nav map take over most of the display, helping you work out where you're going without having to look down to your left to the screen. I think it's really, really good. I mean, I'm not sure I'd crawl over hot coals to have it. I spend most of my time with it just showing the normal speedometer and power gauge as loud as it can go. But the ability to customize it is a welcome one, and it's a really slick user interface. I think a lot of people complain about things like this, and I see a bit of negativity about sort of Volkswagen and Audi and the setup that they have. But my experience of the e-Tron 55 has been absolutely brilliant, and there's not much I think they could do to make it better. I find it really, really slick. I find it exactly what you'd expect from a premium car. I didn't at any point think, oh, the infotainment in here is a bit rubbish. And I definitely think it deserves its place as one of the plus points. And last but not least, and it's a bit of an odd one, this, right, is it's just a car that happens to be electric. Now, this is a controversial one, and I'm sure it's going to generate a lot of opinion in the comments, but I'm ready for it, so bring it. The final point on my list today is that it is just a car that happens to be electric. It looks, feels, and drives like any other Audi, and I think that point is extremely important. At first, when I first started driving it, I thought this was a negative. In my first drive video, I told you about how I thought it was a bit weird. The default regen mode was for it to only kick in when you touch the brake pedal. Clearly biased towards those moving from internal combustion engine cars who wouldn't expect it to be any different and would find it a bit daunting if it started applying the regenerative braking every time you lift off the accelerator. And that's a stark contrast from something like our BMW i3, which has very, very strong regen, and it's a one pedal driving experience by default. And actually in the i3, as far as I know, you can't customize that. That's just what you get. But the longer I spend with the e-Tron though, the more I think I get it. It's a good thing that it's as normal as possible. It's a good thing that you can just drive it like any other Audi. And the only thing that's slightly different is that you can wake up with a full tank every morning, should you be able to charge it at home. And that you might need to think a little bit more about where to stop on a longer journey. But only because the charging infrastructure is still developing. And certainly, as we demonstrated when I did a long journey in it, the journey time wasn't even that much different. It just took a little bit of forward planning. But it's not weird, it's not different, it's just a car. And a very good car at that just happens to be electric. A lot of people out there have got a lot to say about the e-Tron, most of them people who have never sat in one, never mind driven it. Yes, it's expensive. And the price is definitely not going to feature on a summary of things that I like about the car. But there is a lot to like about it as well, and I'm really, really very taken by it. I actually think if I had the money, if I had a spare 80 grand sloshing around, or I could afford to lease one for a long time, I would be seriously tempted to do so. And that's just based on a couple of months and a couple of thousand miles with the e-Tron. I really, really like it. and I think it's greatly misunderstood, and it's actually a really good bit of gear. I think people expect it to be something that it's not. I think people look at it as if it's, a revolutionary demonstration of EV, whereas in fact it's just a car that happens to be electric, and it's a really big point. But let me know in the comments what you think. If you've driven an e-Tron, or if you've spent any time with one, do you agree? Are these points that you would agree with, or do you think I'm wrong? I would very welcome your thoughts. Now, if you haven't driven one, or maybe haven't had much more than like a 10-minute test drive in one, I'd think about it a little bit before you start tearing into me too much. But at the end of the day, unless you've actually spent some time with the e-Tron and you kind of get it a bit more, it's just worthless opinion really, isn't it? But by all means, shoot it at me in the comments. But that's all I've got time for this time. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to you all telling me how wrong I am in the comments, and I'll see you next time where we'll run through some of the things that I'm not quite so keen on.